What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are at Mockingbird Lanes and there are some open bowlers next to us. There's some music going on, so a little bit of background noise, but that's what you get when you have a very successful bowling alley that you come and shoot your videos in. So it's great. We appreciate that this bowling center allows us to come shoot our videos, and we love the fact that they've got open bowlers, keeps them busy, keeps this place running. So what are we doing today? Today, Keith and I have some new equipment that we are going to unbox and reveal for y'all. We ordered 4, 2 for each of us. One of mine did not show up, but that's okay. It's en route. It'll get here. What did it say on the packing thing? It said it's outstanding.
Outstanding.
So he knows it's going to be a good ball because it's outstanding. It says so right on the packing slip.
Absolutely. So I'm excited about that.
So today we're going to focus on the 2 balls that I got. We'll do Troy's when his both come in. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to show you the balls that I got. Then I'm going to bring up my arsenal, talk about what I actually have already in my arsenal, talk about some of the numbers, and then show you where these 2 new balls fit in my arsenal and why I selected the 2 balls that I do. You're going to notice that these are not the 2 most brand new balls that just came out. I'm a warm-blooded human, and believe me, I wanted the new shiny ones that came out that look awesome, but I got the balls that I felt like I had holes in my arsenal and I needed these balls for. So with that said, let's get into some unboxing. I'm gonna open up the first one here.
It's like Christmas time.
It is.
Move this out of the way.
All right, so
Tonight we bowl.
there to that. All right, so we got ourselves the DV8 Hater Pearl. All right, so obviously this is a pearl, given the name Hater Pearl. It's a very nice looking ball. I like the black and the kind of tealish, grayish, bluish combos. It's a really good looking ball. I don't get bowling balls because of how cool they look, but it is what it is. So,
color description is gray, purple, and black right there on the box.
The gray and purple kind of combine together, give it kind of that tealy look. So,
yeah,
very cool looking ball. I will talk about the numbers here in a minute. Get that ball out of the way. Let's take a look at ball number 2. What's behind door number 2? All right, ball number 2, Brunswick. The Brunswick Crown Victory. Obviously another pearl ball, so I got 2 pearl bowling balls. So this one is an asymmetrical ball, this is a symmetrical ball. So let's talk about why I picked these 2 balls specifically. Hold that. All right, so I'm gonna bring up on the screen here my current arsenal. So what you need to know about me, some of you out there are getting your first ball for the first time. You're gonna have to talk to your pro shop, take a look at how you throw the ball, determine what's the best ball for you to be the first ball you get into to start your game. Some of you are gonna be building a league bag. You're gonna be getting into 3 bowling balls, and you need to know what's the second and third ball that you need to get around those bowling balls. Some of you are tournament bowlers, so you're gonna expand even further. And then you got the pros that are bringing 24 bowling balls to every tournament. I am not that 24 bowling ball kind of guy, mainly because I'm not on staff with anybody. Even though these are both brands of Brunswick, and I throw pretty much exclusively brands of Brunswick now. I used to throw exclusively Emotive for a number of years. I'm just a very brand loyal kind of person, so I like the brands of Brunswick line, but I don't have access to free bowling balls every time a new one comes out. So I have to be somewhat limited on the balls that I get, but I try to build a strong arsenal. So I generally keep about a 12 ball arsenal. That doesn't mean I only have 12 bowling balls. I do have some bowling balls in my basement, but over time, I'm usually, once I have 12, I start to buy a replacement for a ball, and the ball that gets replaced goes down into my basement and eventually becomes a ball I donate to somebody on the high school team or what have you. So I generally have these 12 balls I put into a rotation, and then I decide based on tournaments that I go to if I'm bringing all 12, if I'm going to bring 3 of the bags and bring 9 balls. At league, I only bring a selection of those balls. I don't bring them all into league. That's not necessary for a house shot. But because I do a lot of tournaments, I need to have a well-rounded arsenal. So let's take a look at the 12 bowling balls that I have currently. So first up, You need to understand that we break them into specific categories. So the categories, I break them into 4. One is going to be solid, one's hybrid, one's pearl, and then I've got other. And other is a kind of a catch-all of plastic balls, your other kind of spare balls, your urethanes, your urethane-like bowling balls. So I've got a Hammer Axe, which is a spare ball. I've got the 78D black urethane, and then I've got the Hammer New Blue, which is not urethane, but it is urethane-like, and I kind of put it in that other category. So that's 3 of my balls, the ones I have in the other category. The other categories are your typical breakdown that any bowling ball company categorizes their balls into: solid, hybrid, pearl. Let's take a look at my solids first. At the top of the line, we got the Track Criterion. The Track Criterion is an asymmetrical ball. Then I got the Black Widow 3.0, another ASIM. I've got the Hammer Effect Tour, another ASIM, and the Ebonite GB5, a symmetrical ball. So when you look at these 4 bowling balls, you can see that I've got 3 asymmetricals and 1 symmetrical. So a little bit leaning on the ASIM side. I maybe have some room for some symmetrical balls, but there's other factors we look at as well when we're looking at holes in the arsenal. When we bring up the hybrids, I've got 2, Brunswick Hypnotize, the Track Theorem. Okay, these are both asymmetrical balls, so I have no symmetrical hybrid bowling balls. That's another potential hole in my arsenal. On the pearl side, I've got 3, the Hammer Effect, the Brunswick Vaporize, and the Brunswick Ethos. I've got 2 of those are ASIMs, 1 of them is symmetrical. So again, kind of somewhat of a balance when you got 3 balls, 2 being one being of the other. So I've got a mixture there as well. So within each of those categories, you need to then take a look at the next grouping, and the next grouping is going to be your RG and your differentials. Now your RG is basically the size of the core. And the smaller the RG, the bigger the core. The bigger the RG, the smaller the core. And what that core size essentially means is when you have a high RG ball, it's not generally going to be tumbling over early. It's going to get down the lane a bit further before it turns over. It's not going to be your big tumbly ball. Usually you're going to use the low RG or big engine balls on high volume, or if you don't have a lot of rev rate and you need a ball to really pick up and move. So that's one of the things you're going to be looking for. I categorize the RGs into low, being anything under, for me, I say anything under 2.5. So 2.4, 6s, 4.7s, 4.8s, 4.9s, those are going to be lower RG or bigger engine balls. 2.50, 5.1, maybe even 5.2, that's more your mid, and then 5.3s, 5.4s, those are going to be your high RG bowling balls. The differential, that's going to refer more to the flare potential. Now, with an asymmetrical ball, you have your differential and then your intermediate differential. I don't focus as much on the intermediate differential. I focus more just on the main differential. In this case, the higher the differential, the more flare you've got. What that means is more of the ball is actually touching the lane. So basically the ball is teetering, and so more parts of the bowling ball are going to come in contact with the lane itself, and it's going to allow it to bite more, whether it's in oil or as it exits the pattern. So when you've got a high differential ball, it's not going to roll over its own oil very much. It's going to actually turn over and hit that dry or exit the pattern and make a big left. So if we look at the solids that I've got, you can see I've got 2 that are 2.50. That's the Criterion and the Black Widow 3.0. I've got 2 that are lower RG. That's the Effect Tour and the GB5. When you match up that with the differentials, you can see I've got the 2 that are sort of mid-range RGs. They're very high differentials. So the Criterion and the Black Widow. What differentiates those 2 is the Criterion I actually drilled with a specific layout that is designed to actually turn it over much earlier. So even though those numbers are pretty similar to each other, I drilled them very differently and they give me a different reaction. Conversely, when you look at the Effect Tour and the GB5, the Effect Tour, even though it's also in a similar, maybe a little bit lower RG, it's got a much lower differential. So it gives me a very different look on the lanes. And then the GB5, even though it's kind of in between the 2, it's also a symmetrical ball, and so it's not going to go down and generally flip super hard. So when you take a look at this, what am I missing in terms of solids? What I'm missing is higher RG balls. So I've got a mixture of differentials, but RGs, I don't have anything in the 2.54, 2.53 range. I also don't have anything polished. All of my solids, I keep somewhat of surface on there. Now, I love a polished solid bowling ball, but a polished solid bowling ball ends up acting a little bit more like a hybrid or like a pearl, and it becomes redundant with some of the other equipment that I've got. Anytime I would polish up a solid, that becomes a really good house shot ball for me. I'm not going to throw it nearly as much in sport shots, but I am set on house shot balls, so I don't need another one of those. In terms of going with a higher RG, I also feel like as you get a higher RG and it gets that ball to go longer, you can also accomplish that by changing the surface type into going to a hybrid or pearl. So again, you start to get to some redundancy. So while they're technically holes in my arsenal, they're not ones that I'm immediately targeting. If we look at the hybrid side, here again, I've got two ASIMs, no symmetrical. So the obvious hole that I've got here is I don't have a symmetrical hybrid bowling ball. That is something I strongly considered, and I looked at some options. I looked at the GB4 hybrid. I looked at a couple others that were symmetrical. You can see I do have some differences between the Hypnotize and Theorem in that the Hypnotize is a little bit smaller core, but a much bigger differential. That Hypnotize really goes down and has some big hook to it. The Theorem, it acts much more like a pearl. So even though it's a bigger engine, it's got a lower differential. And when you think about hybrids, there's a proportion of solid to pearl. So a hybrid is a mixture of solid and pearl together. And they can be anywhere from a 50-50 split to a 2-part solid to 1-part pearl, or 2-part pearls to 1-part solid. And that Theorem is more pearl for me than it is solid, and that ball goes much further down, but it's got a lot of pop to it. So that little bit of solid in it helps that ball hook a little bit more when I've got some of my pearls are leaving 10 pins. So I've got some holes in the hybrid that I consider. But now let's bring up the pearls, and this is where I really made my decision. So the hammer effect, this is my very rounded shape, very strong ball. It's got the big engine. It's got that sort of middle of the road differential at .050. So it's a very strong ball, but a rounded ball. Love that ball on a fresh shot. Love that ball for sport conditions. But there's times where as I start to have to move left, the numbers don't really allow it to kick that 10 pin out. It's going and it's actually finishing more forward and not as far left. So I've got the Ethos, which is my symmetrical ball. It is also a very big engine, so small RG, but a very high differential. And that ball actually goes down and really pops up really good off the back of the pattern. So I love this on a fresh house shot. In fact, that's the ball that I'm killing it with League right now. So an amazing ball. The Vaporize is the ball that I got for when I need to move left. So in the hammer effect, when I move left and that starts leaving 10 pins, I can go to the track Theorem on my hybrid, but even that will start to be forward a bit. I get to that Vaporize, which that one also has a similar size RG, but the differential is a little bit smaller, but I also drilled it a 70 by 5 by 20. So the big first number is gonna allow it to go further down the lane, the 20 is gonna help it go sideways, and I use that ball to move left. But what I noticed with the Vaporize is because it is such a big engine at 2.48, it has a tendency that if I'm playing close to that wet dry line, if I get a little bit right, it's gonna turn and tumble over and end up going high on me quite a bit. And if I move even further, like if I'm in the left gutter and I'm playing such a steep angle, that engine is starting to turn over and it actually causes it to roll too much forward. And I wanted, even though I've got it drilled with that low second angle, it will leave 10 pins for me sometimes, and I wanted to get something that's going to get further down the lane, store energy, and go sideways. That is where the Hater Pearl comes into play. So the Hater Pearl, the numbers on this one, this is an asymmetrical ball as well. So it's very similar to the Vaporize, but instead of a 248 that the Vaporize has, this has an RG of 254. That bigger RG, theoretically, is going to allow that ball to get further down the lane before it tumbles over. It's going to store energy longer, which is what I need out of that ball when I'm way left. Secondly, it's got an 054 instead of an 048 on the differential. So that big differential means when it exits that pattern, when I'm way left and I get through the oil, once it exits the oil, that high differential should allow that ball to really pop. I'm going to drill it the same way, a 70 by 5 by 20, it's same as the Vaporize, but I'm hoping that these numbers, the 254 and the 054, are going to give it what it needs so that I can move way left with it and get it to finish a little bit stronger than what my Vaporize does. That was an easy decision for me on that particular ball.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, am I talking too much?
No,
I'm just kidding.
Dude, shut up, man. God, let me say something.
I'm sorry.
All right, so why did I pick Crown Victory? All right, this one was a harder decision. So I looked at all of the equipment that I got. I looked at my solids, and I really toyed with the idea of getting a polished solid. Like, I really like the Brunswick. What's the one that we just got for you that didn't come in?
Oh, the Infinity Quest.
Infinity Quest, that's one. I really like that ball. I think the numbers on it look good. It's a polished solid. I think that could be a house shot killer. really, really considered that one. I considered getting a higher RG ball and polishing it and getting something like the new Anger Solid, but actually putting some polish on it. Some reviews made me a little leery on it, so I didn't really want to jump down that road. Also considered, as much as I love the Hammer Effect line, I considered the Special Effect. Again, another polished solid. So I looked at a lot of polished solids and really considered it, but again, I thought it's just going to be another house shot killer, and I've got house shot killers already. So I looked at the hybrids and thought I really need some symmetrical hybrids. So I looked at symmetrical hybrids. At this time, there weren't any that really stood out to me that said, yes, I want that symmetrical hybrid. So then I went into the pearls and I thought, you know, there's one thing that I don't have, even with what I've got with that hater that I just bought. What I'm still missing is, what about when the lanes are just drier? And not that the Crown Victory is known to be a dry lane ball, it's not necessarily, but the Victory has a 254, so also has a very high RG. That should allow the ball to get further down the lane. 045 differential instead of an 054, so a smaller differential, not going to pop as hard off the back lanes, and it's symmetrical. All of these things combined, what I'm hoping I get out of this ball is just a little bit weaker overall compared to everything else that I've got on the pearl side, so that if I'm in a position where even standing as far left as I can with the hater pearl and it's still overhooking, everything is overhooking no matter where I throw it, this may be the ball that I go to. I don't know if it's going to work out that way. I got to figure out what layout I want to put on it. I haven't 100% decided on that yet, but that is a theory behind why I got these two bowling balls. So,
There it is.
there it is.
As you saw on the screen, a lot of information, a lot of numbers, a lot of things to take into consideration when you're looking for your next ball. Hopefully, the breakdown will help you decide what is best for you.
All right, so for these first couple of shots, I'm throwing the Ethos, and you can see I'm standing about 25, throwing 15 out to 6. And this would be just on the left edge of where I typically play on a house shot. Normally I'm anywhere from 21 to 25. But getting left of 25 with this ball can get a little dangerous, which I do here, standing 28, and you can see that it comes in real flat, leaving an 8-10. So then I switch over to the effect. I move back to 25, throwing over third arrow again, and you can see I got it out a little wide, but it checked up pretty high on me in these first two shots. So then I move to the left a little bit. I go to 28 with this ball to show you what this does, and here, while it does come back, it comes back and comes in a little bit light. Not a bad shot, but this is the kind of thing, it's not coming in high flush like I would typically like to see. I move even a couple more boards to show you what happens when I get out to 30 with this ball, and in this case, you can see it has a hard time recovering and I trip too. So this is where I would typically get into the vaporize. So I'm standing 30 with the vaporize, and you can see that ball looks a lot better. This is really what I had that ball for. Now the first shot did check up a little early. I got a little inside on the next one and it was flush. But this is where I wanted to see what the deviate was going to do. So I got it out like I did the first one with that vaporize, and instead of coming up high and barely getting that 9 out, both shots look completely flush. I moved back to the right a couple of boards, standing 28, to see what would happen. Kept it in the oil a little bit, and it still finished nicely. So I think that ball is going to be great. For the last few shots, I'm going to throw the Crown Victory. I moved back to 25. I did pull it inside a little bit and it held the line pretty well. I tried to get the next one out a little bit more in the zone of the Ethos, and it looked very similar in that reaction. I did move a couple more boards to the right to see what would happen if I get it into the friction, and while it did come a little high, it did hold the line a lot better.
Alright, so hopefully that gave you guys a good look to see what those two balls are going to do. I think they're going to fit perfectly in the arsenal, especially that Deviate Hater Pearl. It's going to do exactly what I wanted it to do. The verdict is still out on the Crown Victory, if it's going to be too similar to my Ethos or if it's going to give me what I need when the lanes burn up a little bit. So I'm pretty happy with my purchases though, and we got some tournaments coming up. We'll see if they come into play. Hopefully this information was helpful to you guys. If you could, make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we'll see you guys on the next video.